So welcome to our, we're in this, what are we in the last Tuesday of the month? We do this Offsite Construction Series presented by Modular Sure Site on the second Tuesday and the last Tuesday of the month. It's a digital presentation with amazing colleagues from around the world, as I like to say, talking about topics from construction, volumetrics, panelization, digital technologies, and all other forms within that. So welcome everyone. We're certainly happy that you're here. So first off, I always like to thank our partners because without them, none of this would be possible. And Scott, I'm going to have you take it away for Mountain View Window and Door.
Thanks, Audrey. So I'm Scott, Mountain View Window and Door. We're happy to be a sponsor here with Modular Sure Site for this Offsite Construction Series. We're a window and door company out of Denver, do a lot of forward-thinking design on big structural projects. So if you have any window and door needs for construction projects in or around the Colorado area, we are here.
Thank you. Appreciate that, Scott. Not to mention, they are doing some projects in modular very shortly that we're going to be seeing. So we're kind of excited about that.
Indeed, we are.
So our next sponsor is 303 Development, which is always on their developments. Greg Crom is the owner of that company, and we have done several single family projects and now working on some multifamily projects together. So he actually is twofold. He does traditional and multifamily projects. So we thank Greg and 303 Development. Our next sponsor is Art of Construction, and I'm going to allow Scott again to speak on behalf of that organization.
So thanks, Audrey, again. So I'm also the producer of Art of Construction, a podcast and media platform about the world of construction. You can find us at theartofconstruction.net. We had a whole podcast series with Audrey in the past called System Built Lifestyle, and we're about to get going with new episodes every week. And beyond the media, we are also putting together some construction projects, including some modular as well, that we'll be creating media for. So definitely stay tuned, and we're glad to be a part of this.
I'm excited to see him. I can't wait, Scott.
Me neither.
So here it brings us to Jason, our friend at Manufacton. And Jason is the Vice President of Industry Solutions and Strategies. I was fortunate enough to meet Jason at Mountain View Window and Door at an event, and just mesmerized by the intelligence of his technology and his ideas around and behind it. So we are very fortunate to have him here. He's going to be speaking to us on behalf of modular construction and the revolution of technology. So welcome, Jason. Thank you for being here.
Thanks for having me, Audrey.
And it's all yours. Take it away.
All right. We've got a little bit more of an intimate group. So I might take a little bit different strategy on this one. And as I kick it off, so I got my screen share going. Is that working good?
I don't see it yet.
Oh,
but
I don't see it yet.
Hang on.
There we go.
There you go.
All right. So let's skip that part. Just do an introduction of myself. It's easier to just talk through it. I've met most of you, but so my background, I came from the construction industry originally, civil engineer by trade, did that whole process, and then ran a lot of infrastructure and industrial projects. I was one of the ones that a lot of people in Denver are familiar with. I was the resident engineer, on-site senior PM for Union Station downtown. Did a lot of other projects, Eagle P3, things like that. To me, modular, coming from that lens, has always been there. We did a lot of modular things, but it was just pieces of the project. And it was things that were like traction power substations or comm houses or various other pieces to it. And we've been doing modular for a long time, but it was really complex systems things, electrical and mechanical systems. Where I am most excited about it in terms of where the state of the industry is now is there's a lot of pieces coming together to really push the industry to where it needs to go. And I'm going to jump into a couple of the things, that I think is really interesting and kind of compels it, and then start talking about what the technology is. But Andrew, we've talked before, but what were you trying to get out of joining our fun little webinar here?
Wow, good question. I really want to see. I think from a maybe a default ignorant viewpoint, right? What are you guys doing to? I mean, as I said when we met up there in February, I don't have very much infrastructure to try to tailor, so we can move forward from wherever the best opportunities are. So for me, it's a good opportunity to learn what you're doing and try to understand how not to have to change what we're doing, right? If we're getting to the point where volume is an opportunity for us, then we have to adjust to that at this point, and I'd like to learn what software brings to the existing infrastructure, right? I don't even have really very good questions at the moment. I think when I talked to you, I understood you guys are streamlining the development of the product from a software side. So for me, that's what's really interesting, and I'd like to see how what you're doing is different than maybe what a little bit I've read about, right?
Yep, absolutely. No, that's plenty to go off of. Mitchell, how about you? What got your interest?
In modular?
No, and just why do you care about technology for modular, and what's the things that you wanted to get out of this?
Well, so we're kind of a different company. We do 100% steel, 100% cold form metal, no timber, no black iron, 0 black iron. So we're probably, if we're not the only company in the country that does 100% cold form, then I don't know who the others are. It's all BIM, 100% Revit and BIM 360, 0 AutoCAD. We're trying to transition into 0 paper drawings. And then finally, we're automating our factory. The whole factory is going to be automation. So I know everybody says they're automated. No, we're going to go to full robotic, basically take the automobile industry and bring it into modular.
Got it. And then
so drones, we got drones in our factory. You want to see our factory with drones? We're finishing that infrastructure, and then we could just spin up an IP and basically fly a drone to our factory.
That's awesome. No, and we'll definitely dive into some of that. I love you guys' BIM vision, having it all be Revit and BIM 360, and then potentially even Inventor. That's awesome. There aren't too many like you guys. So the last one, it's MVW Denver, which would be, I think you're on mute.
Mountain View Window and Doors.
Yeah, some Mountain View Window and Door and Arctic Construction. So I have
hello, Matt.
Hey, how are you guys doing? Hey, Andrew. So Jason, we're apparently Blackhorn Ventures, I guess, is one of your funding sources, correct?
Yeah, they're one of our investors.
Yeah, so we have a podcast with them on July 7th. We're talking to Ray and Melissa. So I would love to have you chat a little bit about that too, of Manufacton, what you do, how they're involved, how you guys got connected, et cetera. It would be interesting.
Yeah, sure.
So thanks. Nice to meet you.
Yeah, I think we've actually met before. I just didn't recognize you, so apologize for that. So I actually have known Ray for quite a long time, and so is our CEO. I did some advisory work with Ray on some other technology work, but Ray is connected originally through us via Stanford. We participate with SIFE, which is the Center for Industrialized and Facility Engineering. It's an organization within Stanford that's all about what's the next level of engineering and construction. Was originally started by Intel back in the 80s with Stanford. And we participate in that think tank and help them with that. So Ray's a part of that too. That's how we originally met. And then, he was originally, he had his own angel investment group, and then he joined Blackhorn to be a full VC, and they're a strategic VC. So they are an investor in us.
Well, Ray was singing your praises, so that's a good sign when brilliant people are singing your praises.
Hey, we'll take it when we can get it, right?
Yeah.
So a lot of this stuff, like Modular Revolution, like why does it matter? Why now? Most of this, I'm sure, is things you guys know. You're trying to target lower project costs, reducing schedule times, productivity, quality, safety, even like quality. We were talking about luxury homes or higher end finishes, like that becomes feasible instead of the modular homes of, where it's the cheapo prefab things. It's more like you can buy a nice house and it costs the same or costs less than a stick-built house would. So the other things that to me are drivers, housing shortage. So obviously COVID's put a little bit of a wrench in this situation, but it's still there. We have fewer and fewer houses. There's huge increase in housing costs, and incomes have flattened or stagnated. I was doing some more research, and this one really surprised me, and there's a lot in there. But if you looked at the normalized rate of dwelling construction, we had kind of that post-war boom in the US, and UK was there, and then the UK had a big prefab modular thing in the 60s, and then it's just kind of dropped off. We've had fewer and fewer labor to support it, and we're, especially the US, we're well below what we were even in the late 90s and the early 2000s. Like, we're just not, if take all the inflation, take all that stuff out, we're not building as many homes and not as quickly as we were before. My other thing that I think, creates this perfect storm, and I have a little GIF coming up, but I'll skip it, is, and I think we're going to see the same thing happen whenever we come out of this COVID situation with what's happening with the markets. In 08-09, we had the global financial crisis. Construction starts dropped off like crazy. And then, prior to COVID, we were well above it, but we actually had less people in construction than we did even pre-2008. And I think the same thing, like from what I'm seeing, is a lot of people are, getting laid off, losing jobs, getting furloughed, things like that. And then as things reopen, they're really hesitant to bring people back, and they're looking at other ways to do that because they're just trying to control capital expenses, and people's an expensive one. So it's the do more with less, and that includes people, and technology is a piece of that. And, Mitchell, your automation is also a piece of that too. What I think, some people take that as like, oh, we're just eliminating jobs. Really, we're changing the jobs. People are going to have to do different things and learn different skill sets. They might be a drone operator, or they might be servicing an automated CNC machine, as opposed to using a plasma cutter and cutting things, or manually cutting drywall, for instance. Like, that just seems like a really repeatable process that we shouldn't be doing, and we can elevate that. Building cost indexes and things like that. And then, here's that perfect storm GIF in there. And what that has resulted in is, we have several customers that what I love about it is they have things they're really passionate about. And that's what drove them to modular. And then they needed the technology to really do that for them. So Factory OS, they're in California, they had the housing shortage, especially affordable housing. It just was not possible to build houses that could be affordable to people in that area. So they now use our software to run their factory, purchase materials, all those pieces, so that then they can actually execute. And they're setting, condo units within 10 days that they've been building. And those are, 30 to 50 to 100 unit condos. Stagnant Productivity. So PCL Agile in Toronto, they have a whole thing where it's a special service where they're building modular units, all different kinds. They might be just doing a modular wall panel to enclose a hospital, or they might be doing modular skids, all kinds of stuff. Another one is, I think a lot of people don't realize, is even the trades are embracing the idea of modular. You got a modular mechanical skid, for example. where, you know, these are condenser pumps and some other things, and they look at it as, hey, I prefab this for myself anyways. Well, now I can prefab and make these modular pieces that I can then, you know, fly in and set in different situations. So what we do is we enable people to treat modular as a life cycle, making construction as a product, not as a stick-built custom thing. You know, it's more like buying a car and doing options. You can do templating with Manufacton. You can do on production orders, on material orders. You can get real-time visibility and real-time information from all different types of people. And one of the things that we do, so, you know, Mitchell, you said you've got Revit, you've got BIM 360 docs. We have a plugin that then also uses the Forge large model viewer, where you've got all your elements modeled for an entire project. When somebody actually starts to produce it or ships it or sets it, you get a real-time update, both in the model as well as in a web instance. So, you know, for example, here I've clicked on, in the screenshot, I've clicked on a wall panel. It could be a full modular unit, could be whatever you want it to be. And I know that that particular unit is actually in manufacturing. I can click on the order itself. And if I'm a designer or a detailer in Revit, that same information is to me. So let's say I find out about a design change. Well, I can see that we've already got 50 of these produced. That's going to be a huge cost, or we don't have any, or one of them's, you know, just starting manufacturing. I can immediately alert them and tell them, like, hey, this is the way that we need to deal with it. That's kind of the challenges that we're addressing. And the reason it seems like a somewhat small thing, but that whole process of communicating that back and forth takes people like a whole bunch of phone calls. It takes people like a bunch of emails that somebody missed, instead of having just real-time information. I mean, Andrew could be sitting in his car, pull out his iPad and say like, oh, wait, you know, this one's supposed to be in shipping, but it's still in manufacturing in Poland right now. I might need to make a phone call or see what's going on. Or, you know, the designer in Dubai says, hey, something came up, we need to change the detail on the structural steel. Immediately you'd get notified, and because he would just send it to you, and you would get it, you know, whenever you wake up, or if you're checking your emails at midnight. That real-time communication, the version control things, like everybody knows what's going on without having to ask a whole bunch of questions. And it's not extra effort to do that. It's just people doing their jobs. So somebody starts manufacturing, they scan a QR code, they say, all right, I'm doing these steps, and I put in my production information, and I can access immediately the drawings from BIM 360 docs or from other sources. That's the exact version that your designers, your detailers, your architects have used. Other pieces that we do is pull planning. So when you know, again, construction background, you always want to start with the end in mind and kind of work your way backwards. So we set in templates where you can put in lead times. And that can be lead times on materials, can be lead times on how long it takes you to produce something that can be as complex as a complete house or a complete apartment, or something simple like just a wall panel, or even a sub-assembly of a wall panel. Well, it's the electrical rough-in. And you know that, hey, if that needs to be on site or in the factory or wherever it needs to be, we need to do that one day before do QA. We need to do 10 days before that for manufacturing. And then the detailing needs to be done 15 days before that. So that means every time you put in the date that it needs to be on site, instantly your designers or your BIM coordinators know, all right, tomorrow I actually have to get done this BIM coordination, you know, with the rest of the trades, the rest of the design teams on this particular element, because if I don't, we're not going to meet that on-site schedule date. Or they can find out, oh wait, we were supposed to do it yesterday, which, you know, in this industry that never happens. So how that information really starts to get in there is we do have a Revit plugin. So again, Mitchell like ties directly to it, and you're not having to manually select elements. You can if you want to, but we can search by parameters of your objects in BIM. So if you wanted to find every wall that has the same parameter, or every light fixture, or every modular unit that is the same type, it'll select all of them, count it up automatically, create a full BOM, full bill of materials automatically, and then also create production orders that are linked to that bill of materials automatically. So that, and the last thing it does is it will find all of the drawing views that have those elements in it. So it will, if you've got a modular, it's modular unit type 3A, and you've got 50 drawings that have modular unit type 3A, it pulls those from BIM 360 docs and doesn't download them. It actually just links the sheet views directly into a production order. So again, your designer might update some shop drawing detail, or might, change something. When somebody pulls it up in the shop or in the factory, they see that exact same drawing in real time, version controlled, that's hosted in BIM 360 docs or Dropbox or wherever you've got it. So that information flow, like even detailers, that process of taking the sheet views and putting it into a production order or a traveler, if you've got a manufacturing background, that can take hours or days, depending on what it is. It's done within about 5 minutes max. And that's if you've got thousands of sheets and thousands of production orders. So huge time savings, and there's no error in it because you're not having to manually move those pieces of data across. It's all just being done automatically for you based on the parameters that you set. Any questions there? I know I said a whole lot, so.
No, you're doing great.
All right. Other pieces that we look at, I'm a firm believer, if you're going to realize the value of modular building, you've got to build the quality into the work. And you want to do that as early in the value chain as you possibly can. Like, you could have the most amazing product, but if you aren't QCing it and making sure it's right, early in the process, like if you did that right before you shipped it, you're going to completely blow out all of your productivity gains, your quality gains. Like, it needs to be done right when the framer's done, before you put the drywall in, before you put the insulation in, before you put the flooring down. Like, each of those steps, you got to build the quality into the work. You can't inspect the quality in the work. And how do you do that? Well, one of the ways that we do that is we give you configurable forms that can be done at a step level. And that can be as granular as you want to be. So if you want somebody to fill out a form every time they put in all the screws on a wall, go right ahead. Or if you want it to be every time they, are just finishing up one of the wall panels, or they're just doing all the flooring, and you want to say, like, was the temperature correct? Did they use the right flooring adhesives? Did they use the right floor? Are there any overlaps? Like, what's the spread distance? Anything like that. They can fill out that information. You can see who's done it, and that actually are data pieces. That's not a static form. So it eliminates paper in the factories. It eliminates paper on the job sites. You've got that information like right there. The other pieces, like, a lot of people ask, like, why is software important to, the modular revolution that's happening? What we hear, and this isn't me saying this is our customers saying this, is they couldn't scale without software. They could run maybe a few units through the factory at a time, or they could, do a couple of prototypes, but to get to where they're really maximizing on productivity and maximizing on profitability, some of them, depending on what they're doing, they need to be running, 7 modular units a day, or they need to be running 50 modular units a day. That they need to standardize on process. They need to be able to iterate on process quickly, and they need to not be limited by people. And that's where software comes in, is like, you're immediately digitizing those processes. You're getting instant insights out of that data. We have customers where they take our software and they do a daily stand-up where their entire production team, first thing in the morning, says, okay, here's what we got done yesterday. Here's what we got to do today. How are we tracking on things? Looks like here's what we got ready for, setting out materials from the night before. We got people staging stuff. It's all right there, and they're not having to have these huge whiteboards that somebody's got to come in, 5 hours ahead of time to update. They just log in, takes them 2 minutes, and it's right there with a dashboard view, and they can see everything that they need to do. So it's not all that extra effort to it. And they can maintain inventories for things too. And inventory, most of us think of inventory as what do I have in my factory, but there's a comprehensive inventory. What's in my factory? What have I ordered? What's on back order? What's being shipped to me? What's actually being stored at a job site? Or maybe I have another inventory location. I can get a comprehensive view of everything that I, own from a component or material standpoint right there, and anybody could see it. So, Mitchell, if you were looking for a particular gauge of steel that you're having trouble finding from that cold form, situation, you could see, oh wait, our other factory has it. Or, maybe this job site has some spare, which hopefully they don't, because that means they're not buying it correctly, but we do know that that happens. Some of the other things that we really focus on too is, okay, you've done the design, you've done the manufacturing, but shipping and logistics, that's a huge challenge for any construction project, but modular even more so. Are there specific routes that you can't follow? Or are there any limitations to overroad things? Do you need to do multi-hop shipments? Do you need to take it from the factory, set it into a staging area, then go from a staging area to the laydown for a project, and then do the pick from the laydown to there? Or do you need to aggregate it? Are you going to stack multiple on a truck? Or are you going to have like separated trucks? Do you need to sequence your trucks in a particular order? You can pre-plan shipments. Obviously, if you're stacking the wrong unit on top of the wrong one, especially you're going up higher stories, you could have structural issues, or you could have it where different pieces don't fit together correctly because you're out of sequence. We let you help sequence that both visually in a model standpoint, but also just in your list views for pre-planning shipments. Other things of it that we work towards is looking at your supply chain health, kind of scoring your vendors, like who, maybe you're pre-installing appliances, or you're buying a whole bunch of doors, maybe from somebody besides Mountain View Window and Door, and that door supplier is always late, or they're always struggling to fulfill your orders, or they're sending you partial shipments. We give you those insights to see kind of that vendor performance score, and you can see which ones really perform well and then which ones struggle, and you can make different decisions based off of that. Following that classic 80-20 rule, I want to spend 20% of my effort having to do something that's going to have maximum benefits to it. Also dealing with change. It's a dynamic industry. Even the most pre-planned things, most thought out stuff's going to change, and you need to be able to easily adjust for that and easily communicate those changes. So let's say, you got a utility problem and you need to shift everything back on for every single modular unit that you're producing. You can easily do that, and then instantaneously, again, with those pull plans, production team knows, detailing team knows, coordination team knows, shipping and logistics team knows, procurement teams know. That could have been 10 meetings with different people to say hey, we had a delay on a job. It's going to delay us 10 days. I can go in, change those dates, and they're instantly notified to know, hey, all right, we're good. We can shift that up. Or if it goes the other way around, we just got pushed because, the owner wants to open it earlier or something like that, or wants to get that CO because the inspector, the state building inspector said, oh, I can come on a particular date. All right, you might want to accelerate, and then all of a sudden, designer needs to get something done, or you need to order more materials right now. Again, you can communicate that to people instantaneously. The other piece that really helps is in that turnover. So when you're going for those TCOs, those COs, you're really trying to get that occupancy happening. It can be a huge pain to pull together all the documents, paper, digital, whatever it is. What we have, because you've got that whole process already connected, it's connected to design, it's connected to production, and you've got that traceability. We use QR codes, we use other systems for that. They've got it all consolidated into one location. So you could say, okay, this is, this particular project and these 2 units, we're ready to go for COs for them. I can just click on it, it pulls up all my documents. I can create a turnover package within a few minutes. If they want to, put it on a floppy drive because they're old school, fine, go for it. Or if you want to actually share it with them digitally, hopefully that's where more of them are going to, but we do have some laggards in our industry for sure. Then it makes it so that's really easy to do that turnover, that proof, all those pieces to it, and with the ultimate goal of getting towards that, that actual CO. So what questions or what things, do you see that we've missed, or you're got the wheels turning now?
No, there's a couple, you hit on a couple things. That one, I know with our Revit, one of the things we're working on is I run 2 BIM teams, offshore BIM, actually 3. I have a design team in the US, and then I actually have 2 offshore BIM teams. So at any one point on a low day, which means a really bad day, we're running about 45 BIM designers, and on a good day, I'm running about 70 of them on about 6 or 7 different projects, and just getting the data out of, so we go from Revit into BIM 360 and then just sucking the data out and really just understanding, okay, what is in production and what's not. So that one piece you showed, after this, like later this week when things calm down for me a little bit, maybe I'd like to understand that a little bit more.
Yeah, happy to dive into the details. One of the other pieces that we do is we have a calendar heat map. So, as you're creating production, we call them production orders, but a production order for, those BIM teams, you can see what's in their stage in that coordination or detailing stage. And you could see, like, based on, again, by those lead times, I've got 28 projects on Wednesday, but I've only got 2 on Thursday. Can we shift stuff around to do a little bit of leveling, or adjust my backlog, even just for my BIM teams, so you get a little more efficient on that whole process and you're not having to, bump up and down.
That I'm not worried about, I'm like, I'm just trying to keep that funnel full of work so that all these BIM modelers, they stay busy.
Yep.
One of the things is we have 2 production lines right now. So I'm busy trying to say, okay, put this on this production line and put that on that production line, just from a timing phase. And then we have a unique system where we'll go from 0 to what we call design development in 30 days. 30 days, I'm going to go from 0 to handing off a package for you to say, yes, I want you to build this. So it's just the way we work. And then once you say, yes, we'll build it, I get another 30 days to hit my permit levels. So we're just like within 90 days, I'm going to go from 0 to permits, modular permits.
Yeah.
So it's just making sure I have everything in that model.
Yeah, and so those forms I mentioned, we have some customers, they use that as basically a checklist, where even your BIM teams can just go through and review it as they go through that process to make sure they literally check the box, and it can have specific information for different jurisdictions or whoever it is that you need to deal with, making sure you can get
that might be interesting to explore a little bit.
Yeah, I'm happy to show you those in detail.
So that's it for right now.
Yeah, 90 days seems really quick. So good for you, Mitchell. Just
well
out.
Okay, so you got to understand, in the modular world, when you do a design, okay, you're going to do a building. and your owner, most people, they customize. Okay, they customize. Okay, that's where the whole modular world falls apart.
Right.
Okay. Yes, I'm going to give you full latitude to sort of pick everything you want as long as it's from our catalog. As long as you pick from our catalog, you can customize sort of everything you want. But we own the design. Okay, so it's your building. We love it when the owners come to us with like 5% or 10% done, and they love what we do because, like I was saying, everything is in Revit, everything is in full-blown rendering. So renderings that you've never seen before, standard operating procedure. The visual walkthroughs, standard operating procedure. So we run 15 business workdays to go from 0 to 75%, and then a 5-day Q&A visualization.
Well, it's wonderful because you guys have really, you've achieved what we all try to achieve in modular, which is putting together processes of conformity
Right.
that you can use over and over again. So it's really nice to see, Mitchell. And then obviously, being in the technology, that in itself with modular is what we're all trying to achieve. It seems like there's old school modular that is still in the paperworks of design. And it's nice to see that your company has really automated that process. And I think that's where Jason's going. Jason, how many companies have you worked with where you're really transitioning from this new process into automation?
Yeah, I mean, they're all in different stages of that journey, but pretty much all of them are doing some version of that. They have some mix of manual processes, but they also have some automation, but they're, again, like some of them are almost fully automated, and other ones they're just doing automated framing cutting. It's that whole walk, jog, run, then give them a jetpack type of a thing. So we're all kind of on the journey together.
And Jason Carter's on the line, and Jason actually designs factories. Jason, how are you seeing things move in the technology realm with factories that you're starting to design for clients and stuff? Might be muted, Jason. Jason, are you there? Well, we tried. We tried. It might come back in. What about for you, Andrew? What are you seeing? I mean, you're in, you're in, with GPOD America and working in your product base. I know that you're trying to move over to a system that's more sophisticated in this realm.
Can you hear me now?
I can, Jason.
Yeah, go ahead, Jason.
Hey guys, sorry about that. Hey, Jason, great job, man. Good to see you again on screen here. But no, Mitchell's right. The new factories, what I was starting to say, and I couldn't be heard, is you have Cavco, Champion, and Clayton, three of the largest billion-dollar manufacturers in the country. They will always be CAD drawers. They will not, it'll take them longest to get there. It's going to take the new factories, the new designs, the new mental power, like the Factory OSs, the Autovals, the Prosperities, the factories I'm working with will all have Revit, BIM. Each of the design centers now have full 3D renderings, like Mitch was saying. It's part of the offering. Proliferation of the SKUs is the devil or Lucifer in a factory. So, like Ford said, it's you can pick anything you want as long as it's black. Now that's extreme, but we've got to commoditize the market. So we wouldn't touch a factory today with a client unless it was Revit and BIM and fully automated as far as the software and technology side goes. It's the struggle of the older factories trying to make the leap there, and it just takes some of them can't do it. So it's new money, it's new developers, it's new mind thoughts, it's Manufacton what these guys are doing, and so it is the future of manufacturing and how to get things done, and it'll help change our industry, right? Because we have a bad rep in modular in our country because of a lot of the missteps. So that
catalog of parts and that SKU is so important. And our industry doesn't realize that, but the modular builders really get it, especially the new ones. They're like, okay, I've got to have a catalog of parts, a catalog of products.
Yeah, man, for those of us who've operated factories, when we're quoting product 9 months out, look how much shrinkage there is just in price, cost, and variation. So you can get your butt handed to you real hard with variations and not understanding shrinkage and costing and production and waste. And there's a lot to it, no doubt. And all these tools that your team's putting together, Jason, are great because it helps all of us do our job better. So
yeah, appreciate that.
Thanks,
Andrew, I
Jason.
can see the wheels spinning. You're, I think,
Andrew,
oh, did we lose him? Or he took video off?
I think everybody's muted, but Mitch and Joel.
That's because I live on Zoom all day long from like 5 o'clock in the morning. Yeah.
Join the club, Mitch. That spacebar unmutes my best friend now.
Is that what it is? I never knew that.
Oh yeah, you got to use the spacebar. So if you hold it down when you're muted, it'll unmute you, and then when you release it, it mutes you back. Like it's clutch.
I never knew that. Yeah.
Hey, if you didn't learn anything else, at least you learned that today.
Can you guys hear me now?
Yeah, we got you now.
Okay. Yeah, sorry about that. I was unmuted for a while. Yeah, I mean, Jason, it's pretty cool. I think the question I have, I certainly understand the advantages software brings. Is there a particular angle you guys have? I guess I think everybody's trying to bring the manufacturing side of it forward, the realization of the product at a higher quality level, lower price point, more efficiencies, less waste, all that stuff. I think for the customer, that's key. Is there a particular thing that you guys do that maybe the other software providers aren't succeeding with so well? Is there anything that we can call out for being a special characteristic of your software? I get a few of these pitches. I just don't have enough experience with it to recognize where getting into use of the software is it what do you think there? Is there something, are we still pretty early on where we're trying to get the basics done, or are there big advantages with certain softwares that you can talk about, particularly for yours here?
Yeah, I mean, there's a bunch that you asked there, and I'll try to tackle a few of them. I look at it as, what's the stage of each of the companies. There's companies where they're early on, they're just starting their design efforts. They're starting their, to set up a factory, or they are going to close on a new factory. I call that kind of the enabling, that prototyping stage. And, our software and things like Revit and some other tools really helps you iterate on that process. You're trying to digitize the work steps to produce your prototype. Because then once you do that, and once you've kind of iterated on it and you've done your testing, you've done your mock-ups, you don't want to have to then translate and reinvent the wheel to go into production as soon as you kick it off. Like, isn't it best to actually do those tools and those processes and what you're going to actually run your operations on? And most other tools that are traditional, MRPs or MESs, like, that's really cumbersome to do. It's actually takes more effort to set that up in the beginning. So it's like you kind of lose some of those benefits. The other stages I look at is like, okay, they've started their factory, they've got the prototyping, they've got their basic process, but they've got to do that continuous improvement, and they've got to scale it up. And that's where we come in, as well as, like, you're in a different stage now. How do we help you iterate more and more and more really, really fast, let you show and see and get insights to what's working well, what's not working well. And then how do you take those processes and make them repeatable? How do you scale up in that manufacturing environment? And then, kind of call it steady state ones, is they're producing quite a bit. but they don't know what they don't know. Kind of a classic piece, because it's the information they get is so out of date that you can't make effective decisions about it, and you don't even know which decisions you should be making about it. Like, is my material purchasing process the one that's limiting me or causing me to lose money or causing me to have delays or whatever it is? Or is it the fact that we are really bad at finishing drywall? Like, I don't know, I might have a hunch about that, but wouldn't it be awesome to have some data that's going to actually definitively tell me, or at least give me direction to say, all right, I need to dig deeper into that. And that's kind of that third stage of where we come into. And I think the other unique thing for us is we want to really be the tie to design as well as the tie to installation, and not be a standalone point solution. Like, we want to help you be that integrated execution system that has the visibility to both. Like, I don't want to be a design tool. I don't want to be an accounting tool, but I want to sync to all those things with the right pieces of information so that you're getting a holistic picture and able to run your business.
Good. Good. Thank you.
Yeah.
Do we have any other questions for Jason? Well, Jason.
I had a quick question. I apologize. I jumped on a little bit late and had some issues with Eventbrite. My first time using them. But
Well, welcome, Joel. We're glad you're here.
yeah, thanks for having me. So I see that there's a product for, you know, the general contractor as well as the trades, and then that it also ties to Procore, and then there's some scheduling capabilities. So is the idea to, you know, and it upflows to the ownership group as well. Is the idea for the trade contractors to maybe submit their submittals, and this streamlines the submittal process and review time for the designers, and then the contractor is using this as their scheduling software as well, so it would replace things like Primavera or SureTrack and such as well?
Not quite. So
okay,
the submittal processes, the RFI processes that can happen in Procore, PlanGrid, Autodesk Construction Cloud, all that stuff. But you know, you don't want to necessarily buy materials or start production on something unless the submittal's approved, and we give you a link to that submittal. That's one flow of it.
okay.
Also, you know, P6 and SureTrack and Microsoft Project, that's how you put together your baseline schedule, or you're putting your execution schedule. Well, don't you want to then feed back how you're actually producing stuff automatically instead of having to hire a P6 scheduler to do that update for you all the time? Like,
Yeah, or make a phone call for it, but yeah.
right. So we do syncs and exports from P6 to then set up your initial production lines, but then as things happen, we can push it back to P6 so that your baseline and your CPM is accurate.
Okay,
so we're
so
more on the execution side of things.
Okay.
And, you know, syncing to those project management tools and syncing to, you know, ownership. So the way we set up our software is you can have an instance and you can invite your subcontractors, you can invite owners to it, and you can limit what they can see. So if you have a developer and they just want to see, hey, what's happening with it, or maybe you've got a financier and you need to, you know, you're doing drawdowns on your loans and they want to see what you've actually, you know, progressed on, they can log into it, especially in, you know, times like this where they can't come to your job site. They don't really want to anyways. You can say, look, okay, especially on modular projects, like we've produced these 10, you know, units, they're in storage getting ready to be set, but you know, you can actually give us the money for that because I can prove it to you that it's done. And we have customers that do that, or, you know, they share an access with the GC who's going to be doing the set and stitch or the site work, you know, things that Audrey does, like, you know, they can see the different pieces of it. So it's all in one spot. You can see multiple projects at a time, kind of all integrated together as that, you know, execution platform for building it, but ties to the other systems you need.
Okay, great. Thanks.
And Joel, I can make an introduction to you and Jason when we get done, just so that you guys can connect. Joel and I actually just met was it this week or last week? I can't even remember, my God, so sad. Is there any other questions that we want to tap into Jason's brain here since we've got him here? Jason, that was awesome. Thank you. There's so much great information, and I can't wait to share your link. We'll have this link available on modularsuresite.com. I'll also share it with anybody else that needs to kind of recap and check it out. It's always so valuable to be able to have someone like yourself here, so that, you know, we're all running busy and it's crazy. And so it's nice to be able to recap and kind of put these pieces together, especially for our industry and moving into offsite construction.
Yeah. Thanks, Audrey. Thanks for having me.
Yeah. So if you wouldn't mind, can you share back your screen with us?
I should.
Oh, look at it. We're back. We're back. So just a quick note, our next event will be on Tuesday, July 14th. We've actually changed all of our events now to 4 o'clock Mountain Standard Time. Our next series is with Anastasia Facco. She is with Res Elevate. She actually is a designer of modular communities, and she's been tackling affordable housing crisis in Michigan. So we're kind of excited to see how that's going to all play out, and have her here with us. So it should be very exciting for us. So please come back. We'd love to have you for our next series. And just to recap, we want to thank our partners one more time: Mountain View Window and Doors, the Art of Construction podcast, and also 303 Development. We're certainly happy having them with us, and certainly you're welcome to look them up. If there's anything that I can do to make an introduction, please let me know.
Yeah, thanks, Audrey. We're happy to be a part of it.
And so here you go. Here's how you find us at Modular Sure Site. We're on Facebook, Instagram, and LinkedIn. Again, I'm here for the overall community and trying to get more people to understand and have the conversation about modular and offsite construction. Offsite construction uses many different forms. It's not just volumetric building. So if there's a way and a platform that you have something that is interesting to say, or someone that is in this industry, please help them connect with us. Because until we can start having a bigger voice and allowing people to know that there's another opportunity to build other than just traditionally, we have a function that can be greater and more successful, not only with quality, but also with the capacities of using less people on site and less issues in those areas. So thank you all for being here. I'm certainly grateful. Thank you, Jason, for all your time and effort today. It's always a pleasure to see you. And we'll have a link to this on our website tomorrow. So we appreciate it, and thank you all for being here.
Thanks, Audrey.
Thanks, Audrey. Thanks, Jay.